Approximately 3,700 vehicles per day use the road, including residents, commuters, tourists, children accessing education, businesses and freight as well. It's just essential for how this region works. After the original storm event on January the 15th, Waka Kotahi officials conducted inspections of the road and found a range of cracks that had begun to occur in the road at that time. They continued those inspections and on the 27th of January found that those cracks and the risk was increasing and closed the road. It was later on that day that the major dropout occurred, in which around about 130 metres of the road simply slipped down into the gully. So in the first instance, I just want to acknowledge the work of Waka Kotahi in ensuring that we did keep that road safe for the people who used it and prevented something worse from happening at that time. We know that the months of closure of the road since then have been very, very hard on the community. All of those groups I mentioned before, residents, businesses, children, those who needed to transport freight from one side to the other. It's created significant extra travel time. I talked to some councillors this morning who had to make a 2-hour journey around the peninsula to get to this gathering here this morning. Access to education, access to healthcare, impacts to freight and businesses. It's a reminder that transport enables our communities to work, and when those options are removed, it makes things much, much harder. So we have been working hard since that time to provide certainty for those people, and that is what we are here to confirm today. Following the slip and the closure, a dedicated team of people from Waka Kotahi, project managers and consulting engineers have been focused on finding the right solution and trying to find a solution that can be built in a way that is safe and resilient as quickly as we reasonably can. While the road is closed, those impacts continue to impact on the community, and that is top of mind for everyone who is involved. The team I've just mentioned have been working through 3 options for the best long-term solution for State Highway 25A. Each option, over the course of April and into early May, was investigated in parallel so that we could get to a preferred option as soon as possible and move on to a detailed design and get construction underway. Waka Kotahi has confirmed to me, and I am confirming today, that we have determined that a bridge is the right solution to fix State Highway 25A, based on the ability to build back better and to do so as quickly as possible for the people of this district. A bridge was selected as it will reconnect the Coromandel Peninsula in the shortest period of time possible, and it is the safest and most resilient option. As our government moves forward with the rebuild from the anniversary weekend floods and Cyclone Gabrielle, we are focused on building back better, making sure that our infrastructure is as fit for purpose and as resilient as possible. Another key advantage of the bridge option is that it means that work can continue over the winter period because much of the construction of the bridge can occur off-site. So even if there is severe weather on site here at 25A, the work can continue in order to try and bring home the option and the solution as soon as possible. We have the right expertise here in New Zealand to build good quality, resilient bridge structures. Here in the Coromandel, people well know the Kopu Bridge, which was opened in relatively recent years, and of course the Waikato Expressway has a number of very significant bridges that are well known as well. So we are confident that we have the expertise across the agency and contractors to get a very good outcome. Waka Kotahi has already started its work with the construction industry on this important work and is underway with the procurement process. By early June, Waka Kotahi will have a contractor ready to get started on constructing this critical link, with formal construction likely to begin within a few weeks of that point. The Tapu Coroglen Road has been closed to through traffic since a section of it collapsed into the river below earlier this year. The Thames Coromandel District Council's roading team is working towards a temporary alternative route to the Tapu Coroglen Road that is estimated to be ready for use in June of this year. That's next month. The route will be single lane, it will have limited visibility and does have tight corners, as everyone familiar with that road will know. It will require the creation of passing and waiting bays at either side to cater for the additional traffic that is likely to use it in the absence of 25A. I do just want to note this to make it clear that Waka Kotahi and Thames Coromandel District Council are working hand in glove across the whole network to make sure that we are able to have a network that is as resilient as possible and provides as many options as possible while this critical work on 25A is moving forward. Keeping communities in whānau connected and getting the Coromandel moving again is a priority for our government, and that is a priority in the general rebuild. One of the reasons why this announcement is so important today and such a milestone is that it's critical for this region, but it's also the last major piece of the puzzle in terms of determining solutions for the state highway network in the wake of the floods. Over the last couple of months, we have completed work to reconnect the Waikato to Raglan through repairs to State Highway 23. We've reopened the Brynderwyns in Northland. We've reopened State Highway 5 between Napier and Taupo. We've installed multiple Bailey bridges throughout the Hawke's Bay and Tairāwhiti, with a number more to open over the course of this month. So confirming the reopening plan for State Highway 25A really has been the critical missing part of the plan for restoring our network. So this is an important moment in our recovery. We are doing what we can to deliver for Coromandel communities in the meantime. There is a strong commitment on restoring transport connectivity, but also the need to support businesses who have gone through an exceptionally difficult time. The government's provided approximately $8.5 million in business grants to support businesses in this region, and I acknowledge Thames Coromandel District Council who have led the process of providing that funding and support to businesses. And we're working closely with the council now and the advisory group that Mayor Salt and myself have established to make sure that we draw from the community locally led solutions to help people and businesses navigate the difficult period ahead. We do anticipate seeing a lot more weather events creating disruption on our roads. This is the reality of living in an era of climate change. Our readiness in response to these events has always been business as usual for Waka Kotahi and Thames Coromandel District Council. Of significant weather events means that we must think differently about how we deal with these risks in our land transport system. We are increasingly building climate change adaptation into our infrastructure planning. And over the coming year, I look forward to working with regional leaders to make sure that beyond this particular project, we build a network that is as resilient as possible for the businesses and people of these communities. I'd like to finally finish by acknowledging all of those who are an important part of this work, our partners in local government, members of the advisory group, businesses and community leaders more generally, and also to acknowledge those people who have been working hard on 25A over the last few months, and to wish all the best for a safe and quick construction on the project over the coming period. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll now pass on to Mayor Len Salt for a few additional words, and then we're available to take any questions.
Kia ora, tēnā koe, Minister Wood, ngā mihi nui, ko Len Salt toko ingoa. I can tell you this announcement has been very, very welcome. The loss of this vital connection has not only caused immeasurable harm to our ability to operate as a community, but it has hurt our business operators at a time when they didn't need any more pain. I can also tell you that this is just the beginning, and the Minister touched on this already. Our district has struggled with decades of underinvestment in our roading and infrastructure networks. That needs to change, and it needs to change now. Our council will be pushing very hard to ensure that it does. It's important that we acknowledge the many people who have worked tirelessly from the day these events happened to find solutions. Waka Kotahi have gone to extraordinary lengths, not just to find the best and fastest solution for 25A, but to keep our entire and very fragile roading network open. When I declared a state of emergency on the 3rd of February, Minister McAnulty called me pretty much straight away to offer support and find out what we needed. He allocated $100,000 in Merrill relief funding immediately. This was topped up by incredibly generous donations from our local business community and support agencies such as as Trust Waikato and ordinary people in the community. The folks on Waiheke Island even organised a fundraising concert just to help us out. With this funding in place, we've been able to help over 500 of our affected local residents and small business people. Over $450,000 has gone to families in need. Our council staff, led by Chief Executive Aileen Laurie, and our leadership team, including Lorna White, Donna Holland, Mitch King and the Economic Development team, work closely with Minister Wood's office to secure over $6 million for businesses affected by these weeks of storm events. Our communities, our iwi, our social agencies and volunteer groups, friends and neighbours gathered around and supported each other. We still need that support, and we will do for some time to come. I thank you all on behalf of our team at Council and the people of Thames Coromandel. There's some out there who have been vocal in their criticism of the work done and the time taken, and those who claim to have alternative solutions using bulldozers off the farm and overseas contractors. We have explored every possible option, and I have every confidence in the process, in Waka Kotahi, in Minister Wood, but I hear and understand the frustration and the pain of people in the community who are affected by this. We have relayed our concerns to the government and will continue to work on solutions for those most affected. We've partnered with marae community groups and others in the community to prepare ongoing contingency plans and increase our capabilities for the future. We have amplified our efforts at a regional and central government level to get investment in our entire district for a roading network that works to prepare us for future events, to make us climate change resilient and able to cope with what is coming. If there is one thing we can be certain of in the Coromandel, we will face many more challenges in the future. And as we all know, even today, we are expecting another weather event which may affect our roading network once again. Hopefully it will not be as extreme as feared, but on the Coromandel, we prepare for the worst and we hope for the best. This policy has been put in place by our Civil Defence Controller, Gary Towler, based on many years' experience. It has saved lives and will continue to do so. Thank you very much to everyone involved, and thank you for coming today.
All right, we're very happy to take any questions you may have now. Yes, this is one of the key things that Waka Kotahi has investigated as it's worked through the options. We know that this is a part of the country which does face extreme weather, a lot of rain at times, and the agency has worked both to develop an option that's as quick as possible to deliver, but offers as much resilience as possible. I might just actually throw briefly to Brett Glidden, who can speak in a little bit more detail about the ways in which the bridge assists us with that resilience.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question and a good point. The reality is that to do a bypass, you're actually going through the same topography, the same geotech conditions, so you have all the same risks that you have at this location. With a bridge, you have a number of piers, obviously, that go into the ground and bed in rock, and then you're out of the geotech conditions. And so a bridge actually ends up being the most resilient solution for this section of corridor, more so than a bypass, which you would have to build in the same topography, same material, and will take longer to probably build.
At this stage, that'll be worked out over the next month or two as we continue to work through with contractors, but it is a significant project that we expect to be in the zone of around about $30 to $40 million. Yeah, the best estimate for that is probably early 2024. As I say, there is further work which needs to occur with contractors to finalise a detailed design. And sometimes these projects can be affected by things like weather. So early 2024 is what we estimate at this stage. But I really want to underscore that from myself, from the council and from Waka Kotahi, we'll leave no stone unturned to try and bring forward the opening and the completion of this project as soon as possible. I've given that directive, Brett and the team are seized of that, and it will be a part of the way in which we try and drive the contractors forward. This needs to be delivered in a way that's safe. Needs to be a good quality product that is resilient for the community, but we'll explore all of the options. We'll explore whether we can work right through the day. We'll explore 7 days a week, any additional techniques that we can use to get this open as soon as possible for the community.
Minister, can you just explain how many lanes it's going to have, where the tolling might be an option?
Yeah.
And the logistics.
The route will not be tolled. I'll pass to Brett for further comments in terms of the detailed design of it, some of which is still being worked through as we continue to engage with contractors.
It'll definitely be a two-lane bridge, so it won't be a single-lane bridge. We'll look at walking and cycling provisions and other provisions we provide, but as a bare minimum, it will absolutely be 2 lanes and reinstate what was there previously.
We've seen a lot of bridges in trouble in places like Tairāwhiti and Manukau in the recent weather events.
Yeah, sure, good question. Look, this will be built to the latest design standards. So a lot of those bridges that we've had issues with on the East Coast are very old bridges built to a different standard at a different time. The standards continuously evolve as engineers learn more about what's important, what's resilient bridges need to be built like, what the impacts of weather are going to have on bridges, what the geotech conditions could potentially be. I've got every confidence that this bridge will be resilient, much more resilient than some of the ones we've had issues with on the East Coast, given it's a brand new bridge. And I think the other important fact in this is that not only is it building the bridge, we are going to look at the whole corridor as well, because it will actually end up being very resilient, and some of the other parts of the corridor are not so resilient. So we are going to look at what else we need to do along that corridor to lift the overall resilience of the network.
We also understand that the site is difficult, it's not even cleared. What are the challenges for you right now, just even reaching a preparatory stage?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges. The site's not hasn't stopped moving, so there's still a lot of water running through that site, and the slip is still moving, and there's still concerns about land above it moving as well. So that does create some challenges for us. We'll have to work with the contractor around the construction technique they're going to use to ensure they can do that safely. The key with the bridge, though, is that once you get out of the ground, then you get away from the risks of the earth moving, and then you're in dealing with the bridge above. So that's one of the advantages of the bridge construction. But until we get out of the ground, those risks remain.
But surely doesn't that put, just the sheer state of things at the moment, doesn't that put the timeline under question already for a 2024 completion?
No, not at all. So I think the Minister was right that it's most likely going to be early in 2024. What we do want to do, though, is get a contractor on board, because we want to design a bridge and build a bridge that suits the contractor we've got. So contractors have certain skills and capability, they have certain plant and certain ways that they like to build bridges. You can build lots of different sorts of bridges out of different materials. So we're going to design the bridge to suit the contractor that's building it, and that will help us build it a lot quicker. So we want to make sure they got the plant they're using suits the bridge design, rather than us enforcing a bridge design and getting them to adapt. Look, no, I think it will be a New Zealand-based company here. A lot of New Zealand companies are overseas owned, but it will be a New Zealand-based company for sure. We have great capability in bridge building for a bridge like this in New Zealand.
When compared to some of the other options in terms of time frame, was this one of the more timely options, or how did it compare?
Well, this was one of the key messages that the government has given to Waka Kotahi. I know the community has given as well, that time is of the essence with this project. I think everyone who's here and who's talked to anyone in this community knows that this is a really big deal, that having the peninsula disconnected in this way has a huge impact. So it was one of the significant and material factors in terms of selecting this option, both the time to actually build it, but also, as I explained earlier, the fact that we, in terms of the bridge construction and the ability to construct some of it at least off-site, we are less affected by what might happen over the wetter, more disruptive weather months that we might face in the time ahead.
You just mentioned there that some of the construction of the bridge will be off-site. Whereabouts in the country will that construction take place?
Well, that will depend on the contractor that we settle on eventually. Brett, I don't know if there's anything you would add to that.
Yeah, that's right. Depends on the contractor. Also depends on what we build it out of. There's steel or concrete options. If you're going to do it out of steel, there's a couple of big steel companies in New Zealand, one in the Hawke's Bay, the other in Whangarei. Concrete yards are spread across the country, so it will be within the North Island and within the region.
Mm-hmm. And as I said before, that decision to be made next month.
You also mentioned there that it's going to be early 2024 until this bridge option is in place. What reassurance can you give to the Coromandel community who face yet another summer of disruption with that crucial road cross?
Look, it's been really tough for people on the peninsula, particularly on the eastern seaboard. I met with my advisory group just before we have spoken this morning, actually, and someone there did outline to me that effectively it will be about the fourth summer in a row when you take into account the impact of COVID, where there's been a serious disruption to many of those businesses, particularly those who are very reliant on tourism and people travelling into the region. So we are deeply conscious of that. A couple of key things that I would say there. The first is just reiterating that message that we're going to put out all of the stops to bring this forward as much as we can. That is just absolutely critical. It'll be part of Waka Kotahi's engagement with the contractor as well. So I just want people to understand that we get how important this is. We'll do everything that we can. Secondly, there's further work going on in terms of the broader roading networks, as identified before, the Tapu to Corriglen Road. There'll be an initial opening of that next month, and heading towards something more like a usual normal of service there before summer. Now, it's not as people have used it will know, it's a slightly challenging road, but it will provide a little bit of additional connectivity and resilience. Thirdly, we're going to continue working with communities and businesses to support them. We've provided around about $8 million in business grants to this region over the last few months, and working with the advisory group, Mayor Salt and the council, we are working now what some other ways of supporting this community can be in the coming months, and they've started to generate some ideas that the government will be able to begin to have a look at fairly soon. Well, a couple of things there. In general, there's an ongoing discussion about what additional kinds of business support there might be. So you'll be aware that the government has had the business support grant package, which has rolled out across all of the affected regions in recent months. The third tranche of that was the last tranche of that broad funding which is going out. But we have said to regions that we're open to a further conversation about whether there are particular targeted forms of business support that we can provide, and that might look different from region to region, so we're trying to be quite locally led here, and we're in that discussion now with Thames Coromandel. Sorry, the second thing I'll just add in there. Yep.
When can we expect a definitive date for residents? Because the messaging has been 9 to 12 months, since the beginning of this year. Can you be any more clear on that?
Yeah, well, as I say, we're indicating early 2024. There needs to be work that is done with the contractor who is selected next month. As Brett said before, there'll be a particular engagement with them about the detailed design, the method of construction, and always with these big projects, it's difficult at the start to pin down an exact date. You can be impacted by weather and those sorts of things. So we think the most appropriate thing to do is to give the community that assurance about early 2024 with a clear desire to move as quickly as we can. We don't want to be in a situation where we give a date, events intervene, and people feel let down and lose confidence. But we'll be able to give greater clarity on that in the coming months once the contractor's on board.
Will you be looking at a single contractor, or is it a potential cooperative?
I'll go to Brett for that.
Open to both, so it will depend on resourcing and plant that they have available, but like the Minister has said, we've been very clear to the contractors to date that speed is the critical factor here. So if they haven't got all the resource and plant to do it themselves, then we expect them to join with partners.
So you've already had contractors up and review the site already?
Yep.
So the tender process, when would you expect the date that the tender would be let?
End of June, so the tender process has already started. So contractors have already started tendering this week, and we will make the decision at the end of next month, and we'll be into it in July.
There's a lot of other work that needs to be done on that road. When will that actually be undertaken? There's a number of slips on the other side.
Yep.
So will that be done during the bridge construction process?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look to do as much work on that road while we've got it closed, because it's the safest way to do the work and obviously has the least inconvenience. So it won't just be about the bridge site. We'll absolutely be looking at the whole route while we've got it closed, because it's a great opportunity for us to do that work.
One more here and then we'll come here.
You mentioned the fact that there's $8.5 million that has been given to the region. I think we've had 3.8. So the 4.7, is this new money that's going into business recovery?
Yes, the government has in recent weeks confirmed tranche 3 of the funding, which is in the process of being distributed through to councils in the affected region, and then those councils will lead the process of allocating that.
So just one last question. Does the government really understand the issues, and I've heard Glenn talk about it and you did mention it, really understand the issues that communities like Tairo, Arnui, Whitianga, Whangamata are facing when businesses are starting to close, people are having to lay off staff? Are you going to continue to support these communities through this process?
Yes, we will. One of the reasons I've made it my business to come here on a regular basis has been to meet with people in this district. It's one of the reasons it was important for me at the outset that working with Mayor Salt, we formed an advisory group. It isn't just me sitting there with my officials, it's people who are local residents, local business associations, local principals, local community leaders in a room with us telling us what it's like so that we can understand and we can work with them to support them. The reality of these situations, and everyone in this district is realistic. These are down-to-earth people. They know we can't snap our fingers and make everything right straight away, but we want to work with them. We want to hear the possible solutions and then try and support people. They have our absolute commitment on that.
I think it'll be very welcome, but there is a realism in place that we are a long way from those businesses feeling like they have certainty of knowing what the future holds. Having a target date of early 2024 and having certainty about the option that is going to be in place, I think will give them some comfort, but we're a long way from being out of the woods.
Was this the best third option for
The community was anxious to get the fastest option. That was the priority. But it has to be safe, it has to be resilient, and there's an acceptance that sometimes the fastest option and the cheapest option isn't the best one. But speed was a critical factor, there's no doubt about that. That message has been loud and clear from our communities. I don't know the answer to that, so...
Yeah, the bridge option is the fastest option from the ones we assessed, just as the Minister pointed out, the ability to work through winter, the certainty of construction. The realignment involved a lot of earth moving to get another route in, and it had to be a lot longer. The retaining wall, it's a big retaining wall on unstable ground. It's about a 30-metre drop. It's a big hole when you go up and look at it. That was going to take a lot of effort to build, and uncertain during winter when it's wet, you have to stop work, whereas the bridge, we've got more flexibility. So the bridge absolutely was the fastest option.
Brett, State Highway 25 at William Creek, and I've spoken to the main contractor there and also feedback from the engineer, and they assure me that it is safe to take fully loaded truck and trailers over at the moment, and Waka Kotahi are turning them down. Can you shed some light on that?
I'd have to go and talk to the team about that. I don't have an answer offhand on that.